Canada is just one of many countries today, France, Japan, China, Ireland, Taiwan, Singapore, the UK, New Zealand, and Germany included, that is urgently asking citizens in Iran to leave. With us now is Irwin Cotler, Canadian human rights advocate and former Liberal Justice Minister, who was himself the target of an alleged assassination attempt by Iran in 2024. Hi, Mr. Cotler. It's good to see you as always. Thank you so much for making the time tonight.
My pleasure.
I know that you're very well acquainted with the brutality of the Iranian regime. With the internet blackout, the mobile blackout that has now been sustained for a number of days, how worried are you about what is really going on there?
Well, I'm very worried. Iran International, with whom I'm in close touch, has reported that in last Thursday and Friday, 12,000 were murdered in those 2 days alone. The CBS report said the number of murdered may be as high as 20,000. What we're witnessing is unprecedented mass murder in Iran, and I'm not even speaking about the tens of thousands of those who've been arbitrarily detained and tortured, forcibly disappeared, and the like. And so this really calls out for urgent international action, and a coalition of NGOs with whom I'm associated has written to the UN Secretary General saying that what is needed now is an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council, other UN bodies like the UN General Assembly and the like, to redress this unprecedented, mass killing that is going on in Iran.
That may be one avenue that ends up being pursued. The other one that I know you're well aware is a great focus for scrutiny and discussion right now is the possibility of U.S. military intervention. What are your thoughts on the prospect of that?
Well, I do think, when we talk about the responsibility to protect doctrine, and that would be the authority for it, and Canada was instrumental in getting that adopted 20 years ago, I think we do need, and Trump has referenced the fact that with regard to the protesters, keep going, we'll join you. But I think what would be needed here would be targeted military strikes regarding the IRGC and the Basij, cyber security interference, protection with regard to the internet, and making it clear that a coalition of democracies, and Germany and others have expressed their support, will be involved. Because at this point, this regime is not only engaged in crimes against humanity, but it is a standing threat, to our own common humanity.
The German chancellor today stated that it was his view that the regime is in its last days or weeks. Do you think that is a potential overstatement, or do you think it could end up being accurate?
I think it could end up being accurate, but let's not forget that there are hundreds of thousands that are engaged with the IRGC, that are engaged with the Basij, and so on. And so they will need, therefore, support from the outside. The brave Iranian people, and it's all across Iran, it's not just in Tehran, all across Iran are mobilizing, putting their lives on the line, wanting this horror of this regime and its massive repression and murder to end. And so I think the community of democracies has got to come together. And one way to do it, because it's going to be needed, is to provide them with the necessary support, to provide the people of Iran with the necessary support to put an end to this criminal, murderous regime.
How central, how important do you think the international response will be, given that, and I remember interviewing you on numerous occasions, in 2022, in 2019, there have been very genuine uprisings in Iran to fight back, to counter the power and the brutality of the regime before. Ultimately, they did not result, though, on the end of the regime. Obviously, they're still there right now. How key is the international response to this in ensuring that actually ends up happening, should that be the case?
Well, I think the international response is key. I still remember when you referenced the previous occasions, going back to 2009, when what was called the Green Revolution of the People, and they were saying, Obama, Obama, where are you? In other words, the people were crying out then, for American support, and then successive situations. So as I say, the people of Iran are putting themselves on the line, not just some people, but the whole of the people of Iran, across Iran, over 80% in all cities of Iran. We've never seen anything like this. And so we are at a tipping point now, and we have to go ahead and leverage that tipping point. And the community of democracies has to step in and provide them the necessary support under the responsibility to protect. That's the international authorization for it, let alone the fact that standing crimes against humanity are being committed. And so we have a responsibility to stand with the people of Iran, to stand on the right side of history, and to finally put an end to this murderous regime.
The logical follow-up question to the prospect of the regime finally being toppled is, what next? There doesn't appear to be an obvious answer to that question, though there's lots that involve, for example, the exiled crown prince. There's lots of scrutiny over that possibility, or even what role the United States would play, given everything that's unfolded in Venezuela. When you consider that question, what do you think about?
Well, I think that the opposition, it has been, of course, sometimes fragmented, but the opposition has now been coalescing, and they've been preparing for this for a long time. And so you've got a lot of coalitions of democracy groups in Iran, and they are preparing. I think Rita Pahlavi is one person. He's emerged as a very central figure in this, and a lot are mobilizing around him. I do think that the people are prepared, able, and can, at this point, transition to an effective leadership in Iran on behalf of the people of Iran. Any alternative to this murderous regime will be in support of and on behalf of the people of Iran. It will save lives. It will save the ongoing massive torture, repression, disappearances, and the like. And this can be a really changing point, a historical inflection moment where we can stand on the right side of history and change history.
You mentioned a coalition of democracies. What role do you see for Canada?
Well, I think Canada, can certainly play a role here in terms of our engagement with the UN's agencies, as I mentioned, UN Security Council, General Assembly, provide support along with France and Germany to the United States. We need to create a kind of coalition of the willing, as we've talked about it with regard to Ukraine, which I've supported there, and have this coalition of the willing underpin the necessary initiatives that has to be taken with regard to the murderous regime in Iran at this point.
Do you see a political willingness, not just in Canada, but among those democracies that you referenced, to do what you've just laid out?
I think there is a political willingness. I think people at this point, are increasingly shocked by the horrors that they're witnessing, even with the blackout in Iran. Witness testimonies getting out, videos are getting out, organizations like Iran International are reporting. And so what we're seeing now is, as I said, mass murder on an unprecedented scale, mass repression on an unprecedented scale, and mass mobilization by the Iranian people on an unprecedented scale. The confluence of all these dynamics are such that this is the moment for the community of democracies to change history and to make history, and to do so on behalf of the Iranian people and really on behalf of our common humanity.
I'll leave it on that note. Thank you very much for the analysis and the clarity, Mr. Cotler. A pleasure to see you as always.
Same here. Good speaking with you, Vassie.